Hi friends, Stephanie here, and I'm back with more movie chatter. And no pickle. She was a little skittish today. We have wind and rain, and we suspect that she was possibly hit by a flying pine cone in the yard. And she's a very sensitive little girl, so if something scares her, she's kind of thrown off for the whole day. So I didn't want to stress her out more by bringing her down here where she's not totally comfortable yet. So next video she'll be here, I promise. But what I have for you today is a video that's been requested both here on the channel and over on Instagram. And what it is movies for people who maybe aren't 100% into horror. Maybe they're newer to horror, or they've had bad experiences with it, so they kind of skittish, shy away from certain things, and maybe they don't like violence and gore and things like that. So I've kind of gone with dramatic thrillers. There's a few horror comedy titles in here, but not a lot. Mostly dramatic thrillers without a lot of gore and violence and things like that. So, but these are all really solid movies. They're very good, and I highly recommend for anyone, whether you're a fan of horror or not, take a chance on these. They're good. I did my research. Now, this first one is it's a Robin Williams stars in this film, and it is such a different role for him, but he knocked it out of the park. He was so good, and this just showed what an amazing range he had as an actor, because this was a very different role for him. It's called 1 Hour Photo, and in this one he plays Cy the photo guy. This is back in the day when we used to take our camera film into the stores, like the big box stores and stuff, to have these guys develop our pictures. Now, you know, they're looking at them. So he has this one family, the Yorkin family. He's been developing their pictures. They have a child since the child was born, and birthdays and family vacations, and he starts to feel like he knows them, and then he's very attached to them, and he starts to kind of feel like he's part of the family, like he's imagining that he's part of their family just because he knows all about them, so he thinks, through their pictures. And this gets super creepy and dark and weird, and it's got that whole stalker vibe going. But Robin Williams is so believable. He is so good in this role. Totally creeped me out. And if you haven't seen 1 Hour Photo, put it high on your list, because it's really good. And this one, anytime I watch it, it never disappoints. It's fantastic. So even if you have seen it, give it another look, because it's a good one. And you know, Robin Williams, he was just great in everything he did. He never disappoints. This next one is another one. It's fantastic. It's another, I would say, like a dramatic thriller, and a little bit of violence in it, a little more violence than other ones in the stack. But it stars Amy Adams and Jake Gyllenhaal, and I never hear anyone talk about this. It's called Nocturnal Animals. This is a fantastic movie. Amy Adams and Jake Gyllenhaal play a couple. They're divorced. Amy Adams is remarried. She is like I believe it's like a museum, an art curator or museum curator. And Jake Gyllenhaal is a writer. And they were married, and when they were married, she was always the person who would read his manuscript when he finished his work. So he contacts her. He wants to send her his latest manuscript because he said, you know, you were always the one who read everything. And her husband's going to be out of town, so she figures she'll have the time to do it. As she starts reading it, it gets darker and darker and darker, and she believes that her ex-husband is living out this revenge fantasy about the things that happened in their marriage through his writing. Totally freaks her out. And it's a really good movie. It's a great story. And how they do it is, as she's reading, you see flashbacks. So they're kind of going between the two stories, the story of their relationship and then the story that's presented to her in his manuscript. And it's very well done. I've heard people complain that they weren't crazy about the ending. I thought the ending could have gone a few ways, but I think what they did was fine. And because the movie and the story itself is so strong, I wasn't really worried about the ending at all. I thought it was fine, and I just love this one. I can watch it over and over and over. I think it's fantastic. So if you haven't seen Nocturnal Animals, definitely put it on your list. It's a good one. And like I said, a little more violence than the other ones, but you'll be fine with it. Now, this next one, this is very popular with a lot of people, especially in the Criterion Collection, people who are into the Criterion Collection. This is a banger of a film. It's called Night of the Hunter. It stars Robert Mitchum and Shelley Winters. And this one is from 1955. It's black and white. It's black and white, 93 minutes, and this one is the Kino Lorber one, because I seem to be having an issue with some of my Criterion discs that I'm opening up. There's some issues with the discs. So this happened to be one of them. So I have it put aside because I have to write to them and get replacement discs, which they do very easily. But anyway, this is the Kino 4K, and I believe the Blu-ray disc is only special features on this one, but the 4K looks fantastic. Robert Mitchum plays a guy who he's kind of a false prophet. He's the epitome of a false prophet. He's a guy who's been jailed, and he's roaming around, and he's leaving a trail of dead women behind him. But he comes upon this one gal, and she's got 2 young kids, and I don't want to get into the backstory of it because I want you to watch it. I don't want to ruin anything or spoil anything. He takes particular interest in this woman, and he is looking for something, and I'm not going to get into it. But he is so creepy, and he is so weird, and the kids pick up on it right away, like he's just not a nice guy. And Robert Mitchum will make your skin crawl. He's a horrible person. But again, he's putting out this thing like he's a reverend, he's the false prophet. But what a great movie. And like I said, it's a pure drama, but it's got that creep factor. And there's a point where he's looking for the kids outside, and you keep seeing him show up places, and he's singing this song, and it's so eerie and so creepy. This is so atmospheric and so good, and so many people who love the Criterion Collection have this high on their list. So whether you get the Criterion, you watch it streaming, or you grab the Kino, watch it somehow, because this is a really good movie, and it's good all the time. It's not just for this time of the year. Now we're going to do a little bit of comedy. This one is so much fun. This is a Korean one. This is called Zombie for Sale, and I had such a good time with this. The long and short of it is there's a pharmaceutical company. I'm tripping over my words today. There's a pharmaceutical company who has done some experimentation that has obviously gone wrong and turned someone into a zombie. This guy's wandering around, and then he comes upon this family who owns a gas station, and what they do is they decide to try to profit from having this zombie. But it is so funny, and there's so many laugh out loud moments in this one. I just had a really good time with it. So maybe if you want to get your feet wet with the zombie thing, I know there's a million zombie movies out there, but this one was definitely different, and it was a lot of fun. And if you want to get your feet wet with it, and you're not into all the craziness of the typical zombie films, this is a great way to get started. Zombie for Sale it's a home run. And I've actually seen this on Hamilton Book for a very reasonable price. I think it was like $7 or something, but very reasonable, and it's an Arrow title. So, like I said, it's Korean with English subtitles, but it's a winner. It's a good one. Now this one is from 1932. It stars Boris Karloff, and it's called The Old Dark House. Now the thing with this one, there's two different Old Dark House films. Make sure you get the one from 1932 with Boris Karloff in it, because it's excellent. And what it is, we have a group of strangers who are caught in inclement weather, and they end up at this house, and they decide, we're going to stay at this house because we can't stay out in the elements. And the family that runs the house, I think it's called the Fem. Their last name is Fem, F-E-M-M. Anyway, that's the name of the family, and they're a bunch of weirdos. Like, one's a drunk, one's a pyromaniac, and he wants to burn the house down. It's just crazy stuff that goes on. And this one falls under the horror comedy as well. But everybody in this is great. This is a brand new 4K restoration from Cone Media, and this one looks really good. So Boris Karloff is in it. He plays the butler, and it's just really good. If you haven't seen this one, I highly recommend it. You're going to have fun with it. You're going to enjoy it. And like I said, make sure you get the one from 1932 with Boris Karloff. It is only 72 minutes, so it's quick runtime, and you're going to have a blast with it. Now, this next one is coming to the Criterion Collection, I think this month. I think it's coming this month. It is Nicole Kidman in The Others, and this is like a haunting story. We have Nicole Kidman plays a mother who has 2 kids, and the kids have some kind of disease where they're sensitive to light. So she always wants to keep the curtains drawn, and she has to keep them out of light. And she is waiting for her husband to return. I believe it's World War II. But anyway, she's waiting for her husband to come back, and she's always panicking about the blinds and keeping the kids out of the light. And at one point, she starts to believe that maybe the house is haunted. So she starts to kind of get freaked out. And she's worried about being there alone with her kids until her husband gets back. And that's all I'm going to say. But this is a really good movie. You're going to have a great time with it. Nicole Kidman is fantastic in it. The kids who play her children, really good actors. Really good stuff. And this is one I ordered this, definitely. It's like a day one for me. Day one purchase when I saw that Criterion was putting this out. So I'm excited to get my new version. And you guys definitely check this one out. You will not be disappointed. Now we're going to another comedy. This one, Taika Waititi is one of the writers on this one, and it is What We Do in the Shadows. I'm sure you've heard of it. A lot of people talk about this one. This is hilarious. It is so funny. If you remember the show The Real World that was on MTV, I don't know if it's still on, but MTV, where they put a bunch of people in a house together and film them and see how they interact. Think Jersey Shore, but with vampires. So we have a house full of vampires, and it's kind of like a mockumentary. Like, this film crew is following them around and talking to them. They're trying to get into nightclubs. They're trying to meet people. They have coffins set up where they sleep at night. All kinds of shenanigans going on, but this is so much fun. I laugh the whole way through this every time I put it on. It's fantastic. So if you want to see a fun, funny, harmless vampire film, check out What We Do in the Shadows. You won't be disappointed. I promise you'll have a great time. Now this one, I have talked about this so many times on the channel. I feel like I talk about it in every video, but it's just that good. And it is considered a horror, thriller, almost comedy, but it is tagged as horror on IMDb. It's Bette Davis and Joan Crawford in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. If you have not seen this one, please, please, please watch it. It is a classic. This one is from, I want to say 1962, in black and white. Bette Davis and Joan Crawford play sisters. Bette Davis is Jane Hudson, and Joan Crawford is Blanche Hudson. So Bette Davis's character Jane was a child actor. She would sing and dance, and she was daddy's little girl, and her father, she idolized her father, and she just wanted to be like the apple of his eye. And she was known as Baby Jane Hudson, and she would sing these crazy little songs and dance, and people would watch her, and her father would take her out for ice cream because she was so amazing. But as they grew up, Blanche, her sister, became the real movie star, and Baby Jane Hudson kind of fell by the wayside. So there's a lot of jealousy, a lot of animosity. And let me tell you, no one plays crazy like Bette Davis. She is fantastic. They are living in a house. Blanche, Joan Crawford, she is wheelchair bound now, and she is upstairs in an upstairs room, and Bette Davis has become her caretaker. But she is not the person you want taking care of you when you are vulnerable and you can't get any help. And this is just so much fun. It's so campy, it's eerie, it's creepy, it'll make you laugh, it'll make your skin crawl. It has everything in it. This is just such a great movie. I could watch it anytime, anywhere, with anyone. Anyone who wants to put this on and watch it, I am down to watch it. It is that good. It's so good. So definitely check out Whatever Happened to Baby Jane if you haven't seen it. Now, I mentioned this when I talked about you can watch Universal Monsters or Hammer Films as far as for the month of October for Halloween season. And I said my favorite movie, monster movie, is actually the Hammer Mummy. So I brought my Hammer Mummy this time. And this is a really fun one. It's from 1959. And it's just, Christopher Lee playing the mummy and doing his mummy thing and walking around, and it's just a great monster movie, and it's pretty harmless, and I think anybody can be fine watching this movie. It's really, really well done. And I don't know what, it's just my favorite mummy movie. I think it's my favorite version of the mummy. He's just dirty and creepy and icky and everything that you would expect him to be, running around with all those bandages dragging around behind him. But definitely check out The Mummy if you want to have a great monster movie. So check that one out. Now this one is one, I think it's not going to be for everyone, but I think if you want to push the envelope a little bit, I think you'll be fine with it. It's a great film by Guillermo del Toro. It is called Pan's Labyrinth. And I remember the first time I ever heard of this one, Meryl Streep had won an award, and she was standing up on the stage accepting her award. And this was a film that was only in like indie theaters, and it was very under the radar. No one was really paying attention to it. And she said, if you really want to support film, if you truly want to be a film supporter and a lover of film, go out and see movies like Pan's Labyrinth. And I'm like, what is this Pan's Labyrinth? Of course, I got it right away. It's Meryl Streep approved. That's better than Pickle approved. But she talked about this movie and she encouraged everyone to go see it and go support it. And the next thing, it's everywhere and in the Criterion Collection. Basically, this one takes place during or right after the Spanish Civil War. And a little girl and her mother are going to live with her stepfather. Her mother is now pregnant. She has a new stepfather. And they're going to live with him in his home. And he is just not a nice guy. He's kind of sadistic and he's just really dark. And she's stuck living in this house with this guy. And she starts to have like this fantasy in her head, like this fantasy world that she goes to kind of escape the realities of the horror that she's living in her real life. And she meets these characters and she follows them and they take her on a journey. And the characters are really creepy. The special effects are really good. And basically we're living in the mind of this child. We're seeing the world through her eyes, or we're seeing the darkness through her eyes. But I think this is a fantastic movie. I think it's a masterpiece. It's beautifully told. It's beautifully shot. Everything about it is a home run. It's one of my favorites, if not my favorite, from Guillermo del Toro. It is in Spanish with English subtitles. It is in color. It's 119 minutes, but the subtitles are not overwhelming. You can enjoy the movie and read the subtitles. So I highly recommend giving this a shot. I think it has a standard Blu-ray release somewhere, or I don't know if you can stream this one. I didn't check that one out, but it is available on Criterion, and I think there's probably a standard Blu-ray release, or I know there's a DVD release. So anyway, you can check out Pan's Labyrinth, and it's a winner. It's one I go back to again and again. Now this one is another Stephen King adaptation. This one's pretty tame, I think, by Stephen King standards, and it is Christine, A Boy in His Car. We have a young guy who's kind of nerdy. He needs a car. He finds this beat up old car, and he starts to put all his time and money and emotions into this car. And there's this weird relationship that develops with him and the car, where the car is kind of possessed, and if anybody tries to come between him and the car, horrible things happen. And he names the car Christine, and just crazy things happen. And if it's a Stephen King one, it's going to be dark and it's going to be weird and it's going to be crazy. And this is all of that. It's very, very good though. And let me tell you, this is a beautiful 4K. Gorgeous. It's amazing. This was one of the first 4Ks that really showed me what 4K should look like, and this is a banger. So definitely check out Christine if you haven't seen it. And this one I had to throw in here because it's a classic, and it's not over the top. It's not scary. It's black and white. It's from 1968, 96 minutes, black and white. And it is George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead. And again, this is a Criterion version, but there's copies all over the place. This is really good. It's like the OG, the standard zombie film. It started it all. And we have this brother and sister who are going to a graveyard, and they're going to visit the graves of their parents. Or maybe it's their father. Maybe it's just their father. But they're going to visit the grave. And all of a sudden there's these zombies walking around. Now the people in here that are zombies basically are just it's a very low budget film, and you can tell that right away. And like they're just very slow moving, and they're not horrible to look at, and you can just see that they're a little off. Maybe their clothes are a little tattered, but nothing that's going to traumatize anyone. And the sister gets away. The brother, we're not going to get into where he ends up, but the sister gets away, and she ends up in this farmhouse where there's a gentleman who's already there, and he determines that she can come in because she's safe. She's not one of them. And they end up being holed up in this house where people start to show up. But the house is surrounded by these, the living dead who are outside, these zombies. And they have to figure out how to survive as a group. And you see group dynamics, you see fighting, you see them yelling and screaming and trying to survive at the same time. And there's a whole lot of everything thrown into this, but I'm telling you, for the budget they were working with and what they pulled off and what an iconic film this did, it launched a whole subgenre of horror, and it's just amazing what this one little film did, and everybody should see it, I think. So check out Night of the Living Dead, and I think it's another one pretty much anybody would be fine with this one. It's not over the top, so check it out if you haven't seen it. So those are the films that I picked for people who maybe aren't so into horror, and maybe this will just get you kind of get your feet wet a little bit. And I hope you enjoyed the films that I picked. If you have any suggestions or recommendations for people, please leave them in the comments, because I always check the comments out. If there's some good ones, we'll pin them so that people can see your list. I want to thank everyone for watching. If you like this kind of content, consider subscribing, hit the notification bell so you know when I upload again. And I'm either going to do a list next, or I'm going to start showing some shelves in my horror collection. I might put a poll up on the community tab to see what you guys want to see next, but it's going to come sooner than later, so I'm going to get right on that. But that's going to do it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you very soon. So for now, that's a wrap.